Slajewski, excuse me. She's here to talk NASCAR. How's it going, Tara?
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, now I know since the last time we talked, there's been a couple races. Why don't you tell us how those turned out?
Well, first we had Dover, which, like I said, was a bit of a wild card because most of the drivers don't like it. Brad Keselowski, who went in with the points lead, ended up winning it on fuel mileage when the drivers in front of him ran out of gas. He had enough gas. He ended up winning 2 of the first 3 chase races, which is the playoffs. And then they went to Talladega, which was a huge wild card because you never know when the big one's going to happen. And the big one is the major accident you know is going to happen. Matt Kenseth won it, but after a 25-car accident on the last lap, they were going into turn 4. Tony Stewart went down to block someone and caused 25-car major accident. The big news out of that was Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is really the face of the sport, most popular driver most people know. He got a concussion from it, and he had to miss the next 2 weeks, totally took him out of the championship race. And so it brought up the question of, does Talladega really belong in the chase? Personally, I don't think so. I think it's too unpredictable. You can't have that when you're going for a championship. And then you lost your most popular driver. I mean, ratings were down. People did not go to the race, and you can blame that on Junior not being in it. So they went to Charlotte, which is the first race Junior missed. Clinton Boyer won on fuel mileage. And coming out of Charlotte, Brad Keselowski still first in the championship points. He's up 7 points on Jimmy Johnson, up 15 on Denny Hamlin. And we're halfway through. There's still 5 races to go. There's been 5 races, and Keselowski's in good shape right now.
So you mentioned there's 5 races to go. Johnson's lurking 7 back. What does he need to do to get to the top of NASCAR once again and win yet another title?
Well, Johnson has to win. Surprisingly, he has not been winning this chase. We're 5 races in, and Jimmy Johnson has yet to win a race. And I think that surprises a lot of people because, personally, I thought he was going to win at Dover. A lot of people thought he was going to win at Charlotte. And the fact that we're 5 races in and Jimmy Johnson hasn't won yet, he definitely has to win these next 5 races, especially one of the next 5 or 2 probably, especially since Keselowski's won 2. Hamlin, who's right there, has even won. If Johnson doesn't win, Johnson's not going to win this championship because you have to win it.
All right, Tara, we mentioned Keselowski. We got Johnson, Stewart, and Gordon 7 and 8. Who would you say is a dark horse to try and bring home the title this year?
I mean, personally, my dark horse would probably be Hamlin because I think you have Clinton Boyer, who's 28 back, but I think 28's a lot to have to overcome, especially with the way Keselowski and Johnson and Hamlin have been racing. All 3 of them have been up front every race. Keselowski's worst finish was at Charlotte. He finished 11th, and he still managed to lead the most laps. So it just shows how good he's been, even when he hasn't been finishing strong. So Boyer and Kane, Casey Kane's 35 back, who's the next one there. They could both have great finishes, but I really don't see the top 3 slipping up. And so, like I said, I think Denny Hamlin is the dark horse, though, because everyone's still looking at Johnson, even though he's not winning, because he's the 5-time champion. I mean, Keselowski's getting a lot of attention because he's won 2 races. He's the current leader. And I think Hamlin, he's really right up there with them, but not getting as much attention.
Tara, I want to go back to this wreck at Talladega, specifically to the Dale Jr. concussion. He's visiting concussion experts in Pittsburgh this week. Do you think this kind of injury, how big of an impact is that going to be? I mean, should he be taking the rest of the season off? How is this going to impact him?
There were talks that he was going to take the rest of the season off because he's out of the championship. But today, his sister, who's his manager, came out and said he's supposed to be back for Martinsville in 2 weeks. And personally, I think he should take the rest of the season off. They said the concussion actually started back after a test in August, and he re-hit his head at Talladega, made it worse. And I think the fact that it happened twice this year, happened in August, happened in Talladega, he should take the rest of the season off. NASCAR hasn't really started to do anything about it yet. It's the first time they've ever had something like this happen. You don't associate concussions with NASCAR. And the fact that it happened to their most popular driver, I'm very interested to see what they are going to do now.
Yeah, maybe the stands in Kansas will look like Yankee Stadium. Who knows? But no one's going to.
Always about the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, hey, Kansas is coming up this weekend. What's the biggest obstacle facing Keselowski? What's separating him from getting the title?
I mean, Jimmy Johnson, even though he hasn't won yet, he's still the 5-time champion, and you can't say that enough. He's won it before. He's done this before. And Besides that, though, Keselowski, there's some good tracks for him coming up. He's great at Kansas. He's finished top 5 in Martinsville. He finished top 5 in Phoenix back in the spring. Texas, he's finished high there before. Homestead, he probably doesn't have the greatest history yet, but I think he's just feeling so confident now. He can win anywhere, and I really think he's the favorite right now.
So, Tara, the top 5 separated by 35 points. You think this goes all the way down to the last race, or will somebody define themselves over the next 2?
I think it goes down to the last race. I think it's going to be Keselowski and Johnson are going to be within 10-15 points at Homestead. Hamlin could still be there, but is going to be a little bit farther back. I think this thing's going to stay the way it's been because Keselowski and Johnson have not shown any signs that they're going to stop racing the way they've been.
All right, now, Tara, real quick, before we let you go, we mentioned Texas, we mentioned Phoenix. The last race of the season is at Homestead Miami Speedway. It's the Ford 400. Do you see anyone that you think is the favorite there now based on prior track experience?
To win the race, I mean, the Roush cars always do well there. You got to look at Greg Biffle, Matt Kenseth, who are both still in the chase, probably not going to be still in it mathematically come Homestead. They're probably going to win the race. But I mean, I have to go back to the way Brad Keselowski and his team runs. Nobody thought they would win at Dover, but they did. If he goes into Homestead and he's still leading the points, who knows? He could win at Homestead because that's the kind of season he's having.
I gotta say, I'm looking forward to Jimmy Johnson. I'm a Jimmy Johnson
you're a
fan.
front runner. Come on. Go into Keselowski. You're a front runner, too. Come on. Hamlin,
Thanks for
Keselowski.
joining us, Tara.
You know about him.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's all the time we have.